Good afternoon, Technicians. Well, Wednesday. We're excited to have over 250 registered attendees for today's webinar, which is eligible for 0.1 CE credits from the ACI. Let's get started by giving away one lucky attendee a Technician t-shirt for answering this trivia question. Which Cleveland Cavaliers player was born in Ohio? Answer now using the questions feature on your dashboard. While you're answering, I want to remind everyone that we had a successful event in New England last week, and we're now looking forward to next spring, where the Indie Expo will take place for the first time ever in Irvine, California, April 9th through the 11th. To receive more information about this and other upcoming events, including our educational lineup, schedule, and special events, sign up for our newsletter at mdexposhow.com/Irvine. All right, and the winner of our Technician t-shirt is Juan Cruz. Congratulations, Juan. The correct answer is LeBron James. Technician would like to thank our sponsor, PartsSource, the industry's leading provider of biomedical and imaging replacement parts through comprehensive technology tools. As a single source for parts procurement, their top priority is delivering outstanding service to clinical engineering, facilities, and supply chain departments. For more information, visit PartsSource.com. Our presenters today are Dan Brenner, Strategic Program Director at PartsSource, and Jon Kocurek, Director of Clinical Engineering at Dartmouth-Hitchcock Medical Center. Dan, you may begin whenever you are ready.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much to TechNation for inviting us to give this presentation. The goal of the presentation today is to highlight the value of clinical engineering in a healthcare organization. We're going to show you how to use proven methods to track and update necessary data, create ongoing data measurements as you go through your procurement process, and hopefully try and keep it as interesting as possible. And I have the distinct honor of introducing Jon Kocurek from Dartmouth-Hitchcock. We asked Jon to help us with this presentation because he's been incredibly helpful with developing our customer-facing reporting, our provider-facing reporting, and some of the metrics that are in there have his name all over them, and he's been using them for quite a while now to improve the quality of his department and the output that he's getting for Dartmouth-Hitchcock. So, Jon?
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate those kind words, and I appreciate this opportunity to speak to everyone here today. So with that said, basically I wanted to talk about some of the challenges that I, as the Director of the Clinical Engineering Department at Dartmouth-Hitchcock, was experiencing. So the first thing that came up that many of you have to deal with is you need to get a good idea of what you're spending. So I knew that I was spending about $1.8 million on parts annually, but when I found that when I tried to look at the spend regarding specific measures, or even to break it down between model numbers, statistics, and everything, I really didn't have the visibility and the granularity that I needed as a manager to really be able to understand truly what my spend was and where it was. You know, I had questions about, was I truly as efficient as I could be in certain modalities and model numbers, and I just didn't have that information. I could tell you from one year to the next whether I was decreasing my cost or staying within a certain trend or whatever, and had that sort of visibility, but I couldn't really dive deep and tell exactly what was going on. As far as saving money goes, I knew I was saving money as my department, and because I knew that my technicians, and actually we had always prided ourselves on our ability, and I speak even from myself when I was a technician on the bench, you know, that we prided ourselves on our ability to look around and get the best pricing available at the time. From an individual perspective, as a technician on the bench, I knew I was saving money and getting good prices that were offering value to my institution. However, but as I, went up the ladder and I got into management, I started to look at it from a broader perspective and started to see that, you know what, yeah, I'm saving money and I'm getting the best pricing, but how much time am I spending doing this, and what's it costing me in the efficiency of my technicians? So, that brought me to the next thing about how, I need to be able to show my boss, what I'm doing. I need to be able to show areas that where I can show improvement and get a better understanding of what was going on. So, as we all know in clinical engineering, we're always being asked, so what can we save today? How can we prove our department's worth to our organization? What can we do today? What can we do tomorrow? And how can we create value not only to our organization, but to the patients we serve as well? So I knew from that perspective that probably my biggest impact was going to be regarding our parts expense and what we were doing. I knew that we needed to make smart decisions on how to make better parts purchasing decisions, and I needed a way to do that. I really didn't have any visibility with reports. I needed some way to showcase not only what I wanted to do to my boss, but after I was doing it, what was I going to show him, and how was I going to prove that value and the good things that we were doing. So my technicians, we were making good quality and cost buying decisions, I felt, but I needed we really didn't understand, we didn't have a way of looking at all the options that were available as far as parts procurement went. What were the different levels of risk that went with, if I bought an OEM original part, how much risk could I assume if I went with the OEM replacement? What happens if I did if I got a refurbished and tested part? What did that mean? So we didn't have that ability and granularity to look at from the technician perspective, even from the management perspective. I couldn't have told you what any of that was, and I felt it was important to be able to see that and truly understand what was going on. As far as my technician's time, prior to PartsSource, I used to see stories, and I even noticed myself when I was on the bench that it was not uncommon to have one technician on one end of the department ordering something for a specific vendor, and then turning around and have another technician on the other side of the department ordering from the same vendor, and sometimes even the same part. And after seeing this a few times, I started to realize that, man, there's got to be a better way. We can't keep doing this, having this duplicity of work for the same thing. It was just crazy. I had to find a better way to get my hands around the problem and become more efficiency and leverage my technicians' time for, tasks that really mattered, like repairing equipment and taking care of the customer and providing a good, safe, quality product for our patients to use. And spending time on the phone, 2 or 3 guys at the same time, ordering parts from the same vendor, and sometimes the same part just was not cutting it. I also, regarding suppliers, I really didn't know how the manufacturers were performing in regards to back orders and parts that were dead on arrival. We put them in, or we even put them in, and then 2 weeks later we find out that very part failed. I had no mechanism in place for measuring that, and I knew that there had to be some way to get a better handle on that, so that I could go back to the vendors and sort of, kind of hold them accountable and say, hey, we can't have this. This is affecting my business, and it's affecting our patients that we serve. We need to fix this. But to have those conversations, you need to know that that stuff is happening, and you need to put your finger on what exactly it is. I also had inventory issues, like many of you. Actually, this was a huge one. I had I had inventory in my department that who knows how long the stuff has been here. I mean, some stuff was forgotten about. We'd have 10 of something that we hadn't used in so many years. We had batteries and other things sitting on the shelf that were they had reached their end of their shelf life long ago, and it was just a nightmare. So I really didn't have visibility, and I didn't have a mechanism in place to be able to say, you know, what should I have in my inventory? What shouldn't I have? How fast am I moving it? What's the turnover rate? You know, how was I going to make better decisions regarding the inventory in my department? And that's really what I needed to figure out. So all of these things put together were all issues that I was trying to solve, and I knew that if I could find a way to do that, I could increase the value of my department exponentially, not only to my boss, but to our patients by leveraging time, offering a better product. I mean, the list goes on and on. And you know, lo and behold, I was at a conference. I don't even remember which one it was, but I learned about PartsSource, and we started talking, and, you know, one thing led to another. And today, I have all kinds of improvements in all the areas I just spoke about. So with that said, what I wanted to do today is I wanted to turn this back over to Dan, and what Dan is going to do is he's just going to share some of my data with you from Dartmouth-Hitchcock so you can get an idea of some of the things I talked about, how PartsSource has helped me achieve some of those objectives. So with that said, Dan, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, John. And I'd like to take just a moment to publicly thank you for agreeing to share your own personal data for Dartmouth-Hitchcock. That was a very brave decision that you made, especially since you made it before I told you that you were doing better than everybody else. That is quite a literal statement when we look at these numbers we're going to be going through. The first question that John had was, what am I spending? Sounds like a pretty simple question, but it's rather difficult to get to when you've got you know, the systems that are typically in place in a hospital with your CMMS and your ERP. It's unbelievably hard for some folks to come up with this number. So what we did is we provided a report that showed John his spend that was broken down by biomed, imaging, glassware, as well as repairs, so things that are being sent out to be repaired and sent back to the hospital. We also show spend by facility and all the way down to the technician level, so you can see where all of your money went very easily. And John was able to see some interesting things in his spend, and the ultimate reason that he wanted to see his spend is because he wanted to see what he was saving. So the next question was, what am I saving? When judging your savings, the only metric that any of us have to go by is the OEM list. And the reason that is when you negotiate a discount with the OEM, they give you a discount from OEM lists. So when discussing savings with your boss, that's a language that he understands. He understands a discount from OEM list. So that's a value that you can benchmark your department by. And when presenting the value of your department to your boss, we've given John this, and it shows on the left side of the screen that he saved $379,000 of the spend that he sent to PartsSource. And on the right side of the screen, we're also showing where there are additional savings opportunities. Because when your boss is asking you, what are you saving me, he's really asking you, what are you going to save me in the next few months, in the next year, in the next quarter? He wants to know that you're doing a good job, but the immediate question that he has right after that is, what are you doing for me next? And it's important that just for those of you that are going to wind up using this type of reporting, it's very important that you say immediately when you say there's an additional savings opportunity, I need your help though, boss, because you do. There's a couple of different things that I'm going to need your help with, and I'll come back to that in a moment. But to break down your savings, we have a parts savings, which is a hard cost savings of $321,000. I'm on the left side of the screen again where the actual savings are, as well as a productivity savings of $58,000. And when we look at another one of John's questions was, are we using our time wisely? Well, that's where the productivity savings comes in. So at PartsSource, we're able to tell by purchasing habits how the technicians are spending their time. Are they sourcing from the open market, which from time studies that we've done, the entire procurement process in the open market is averaging 84 minutes. And in that 84 minutes, we're talking about the time it takes for sourcing to occur, for multiple vendors to be called, for the data entry into CMMSs, data entry into the ERP, as well as the actual purchasing of the part, and then following up to make sure the part was delivered, as well as the invoice reconciliation. So all of those things total up to approximately 84 minutes, and we can tell based upon the number of orders that are estimated and the number of orders that are coming through PartsSource how long the technicians are ultimately taking. So the internal breakdown for PartsSource is we've timed out how long it takes to call PartsSource versus using our online tools, and we also have integrations that are available. So for John, we were able to actually put together hard costs dollars for his department to present to his IT department when asking for additional resources to get integrations in place with his CMMS and ERP. And John, if I'm not mistaken, I believe you did just recently, as of yesterday or today, receive the okay from your IT department to perform the integration. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Awesome. So we didn't script that story. That actually just happened yesterday, so that's even better. And the numbers for that are actually at the bottom of this, where John would have saved an additional $30,000 in soft cost just by getting the integrations in place that are available with the CMMS, the ERP, and EDI to get the invoicing done. Not all of those savings will be in John's department because John's department's not responsible for inputting of invoices and reconciliation and things of that nature, but all these things are good for the hospital, and ultimately when your best intentions are to improve the overall work environment for other departments other than your own, it really shows well to your boss that you're a good financially and responsible employee for your health system. The other half of how can we save more came down to literal missed hard cost savings. Now, the reason that we wanted John particularly to help us present this is because in the first week of running this program, this report began to show John that there were times when his technicians were not choosing the least expensive option that was presented. So if we were to show a $50 part that was presented from the secondary market, say a refurbished or tested part, and the technician chose to purchase the OEM original part as instead for $100, this report would show a missed savings of $50. And when John saw that, he called all of his technicians into a room, and we walked through it. And now what we see is parts that the technicians would obviously prefer to buy from the secondary market, but they can't for some reason. It may be that another department has told them that they refuse to work with this type of SPO2 cable for whatever reason, and that's where John needs help. You need someone to reach across the departments and say, you know, we need to do this because it's going to be $20,000 back into Dartmouth-Hitchcock's pocket. And I'm certain that the ball is starting to roll with that, but it moves surprisingly slow in health systems. But at least you have hard numbers to show your boss as to what the value would be of what you could additionally save by dipping into the secondary market. We also keep a very close eye on quality. That is, you get what you pay for, right? So we want to make sure that you're not taking too big of an additional risk, and we're calculating it on everything that Jon could have saved additional money on. It would have posed an additional 0.2% risk to his overall quality of the parts that he's purchasing, which means the supplier return rate on the quality management page here would go from 1.8% up to 2%. So he would have a 2% fail rate and $20,000 in the bank. And if that's an acceptable risk to reward ratio, then he can proceed forward or choose not to. But the important thing is that he has the information to be able to present this properly to his boss so that decisions can be made based on data, not based on personal feelings, on any type of non-analytical based decision making. So another piece of this was, how do I reduce my shipping cost and manage my inventory? These two things are kind of combined here, because if you're carrying things in inventory, then presumably your shipping of overnight parts can be lower. And here we see that Jon has been consistently below the industry average of 24.6% shipping of overnight biomed parts. The percentage of imaging parts that are shipped overnight is approximately 100%, and with good reason. The parts on imaging fail less frequently than biomedical parts. There are less pieces of equipment to repair, and they represent a higher revenue stream for the hospital, so there's a higher importance on keeping those things up and running. But that being said, so the only lever that a clinical engineering director would typically have to pull is, as far as shipping goes, will be his biomedical parts. So that's why we're dialed in on this. The 18.2% is one of the industry-leading numbers that we've seen. So you can never really get down to 0% overnight biomed. That's just an unrealistic goal. But you can get it down to a very acceptable level. Meanwhile, Jon's inventory, his biomed inventory, is slightly above the industry average of 15%. What we see is a mixture of, in health systems that we deal with, there's a mixture of those that believe inventory is a good thing and those that believe inventory is a bad thing. So in terms of inventory management, Jon laid out a very, very good description of what can go wrong with inventory, which is you wind up with 100 batteries on the shelf that are have been sitting there so long that they are no longer good. So the definition of good inventory management is that you will get rid of whatever you have on the shelf within 90 days, so 90-day turnover on your inventory. So what we're showing here is, based upon order history, the parts that should be purchased once a quarter. Now, we saw that Jon purchased AA batteries in a quantity of 500 in month 1. And in month 2, one of his technicians purchased quantity 4. And then in month 2.5, they wound up purchasing another quantity of 8. And then he got to month 3 and bought another 500 batteries. So that was kind of our prototype for building the algorithm that we now use to predict what inventory our customers will need. Now, what we cannot manage is we cannot manage the inventory that is existing. So we do not know what you have in stock. We just know what your purchasing habits are dictating. So the scenario where you have 2 technicians who are buying the exact same part at the exact same time from the exact same supplier, they're both on the phone trying to get that handled, can be eliminated simply by consolidating those orders and putting them in inventory. So we have here the suggested inventory page, and it's been very effective immediately out of the gate. Jon is the person who helped us build this. Just these past couple of months we developed this one. So those are some of the things that that we've been doing. Overall, Jon has averaged a 38% discount from list. Jon and his techs have averaged that. So he had a feeling that his technicians were saving money just based upon the culture and the people that he was working with. And he had no way of validating that until now. And now he's got a hard number that he can go to his boss and say, I am averaging at least 38% from the OEM list. And I say at least because Jon doesn't buy 100% of his parts from PartsSource. There are certain things that he still procures outside of PartsSource because he's getting a better deal than that. So we know for a fact that Jon is saving at least 38% off of the OEM list price for all of the parts that are being purchased in his department. The 100% of his technicians are participating in the program, and that's a testament to his openness, not only shown today by sharing his data with everyone in Technation and across the country, but also with his technicians. He goes above and beyond to make sure that they have access to these reports, and by doing so, he's continuously improving. So he can easily justify his department's value to his key stakeholders, continue to evaluate his data for future savings, and most importantly, he can understand his technicians' buying behavior so he can increase their productivity and get even more savings. So Jon, would you like to close with anything that, did I miss anything?
No, Dan, you did a great job. I did want to say one thing, though. Actually, tell a little story. I mean, my team, at first, like anything that represents change, everyone was a little apprehensive about using PartsSource and eParts Finder and wondering what was going on. But we brought them in, like Dan had mentioned. We had meetings with them. Then every time I get my report from PartsSource, I take it and share that information with them. So they understood the reason why, and the more I did that, I started to get buy-in from my technicians. And just a few weeks ago, I actually had one technician that said, he came to me and says, Jon, you know this PartsSource thing that you're doing, eParts Finder? Man, this is the best thing that you've ever done. Of course, when he told me that, I was like, huh, that's the best thing I ever did. It's kind of funny the way he said it. So I was like, well, thank you. But his perspective was that, you know what? Finally, a mechanism in place where he doesn't have to spend hours on the phone every day. He can call one place and get his part ordered. We implemented some inventory stuff where they just go and use it and show the usage in their CMMS system, and they don't even have to worry about ordering the part. The system automatically creates a report, and then we take that and send one big report that has multiple vendors on it to PartsSource. So not only did this solution help my guys to be more efficient so that they could spend more time taking care of their customers, it actually, I think, has boosted morale among the technicians as well. They're not as stressed out by making all these calls. They're happier. They don't have to deal with all this stuff. And it's just a better solution all the way around in my experience and their experience.
Thank you very much for that, for saying that, Jon. But I'd like to also bring it back to the fact that everyone who's listening to this has raw transactional data available to them somewhere in some system, whether it's Excel spreadsheets or it's your hospital system ERP that you can request data from but a lot of the things that we talked about today can be manipulated and created using your own existing raw transactional data. So we're kind of hopeful that this was somewhat eye-opening to some of the folks that are on the call, and they will maybe be able to take that away from here and figure some of this stuff out on their own. And with that said, I'm going to turn it back over to TechNation.
Excellent presentation. Thank you so much for that. And while you were speaking, we've had a few questions come through. So if you're ready, we'd like to go ahead and address the questions. And a reminder to all attendees that you can use the questions feature on your dashboard and pass those through. If we don't get to them today, PartsSource will get a copy of all the questions submitted and can follow up offline. So let's go ahead and get started here. The first question: how did you convince stakeholders you needed to implement this technology?
Well, I guess that would be more of a Jon question than a PartsSource question, would it not?
Yeah, so, you know, I showed, well, I went to my leadership and I said, hey, we don't really have the visibility that we need. We need to do something. And I had shown them, you know, what PartsSource, I had some meetings with PartsSource and the possibilities about the different metrics that were available and what we would be able to do. We looked at the pricing and stuff like that and figured out that, hey, you know what, we couldn't lose, right? You know, we're either going to do what we're doing now or better. But really it was for me and my organization, with things being the way they were, it was more about the efficiency of my technicians that really drove it home. You know, as many of you out there are probably looking, you're always trying, you don't have enough technicians to do the work that you're doing. You're getting more stuff piled on you every day, and you're going out and asking for FTEs, and you have to be able to justify that. Well, with this solution, I was able to increase the efficiency of my current technicians that I had, thereby alleviating the need to go out and get extra FTEs. And you know, and what we had projected and thought would happen is exactly what is happening right now. So, and that's how I rationalize it to my leadership. And you know, they've always been very good to me here at Dartmouth-Hitchcock and backed me up 100%. They did, and now we're reaping the rewards for it.
Very good. Thank you, Jon. The next question we have here: how do I continue to evaluate departmental spend and find opportunities to create more efficient processes?
That's a pretty good one, and the first answer that my brain goes to is you need some form of data to make any type of decision when it comes to processes. And additionally, I would recommend what we've done is we actually get a stopwatch out and time how long it takes technicians to perform each action in the process. So you do that actually 3 times and evaluate the best case, the worst case, and the most likely, and create a weighted average for the estimated time that it will take to do a task. But ultimately, whatever you do will be better than nothing. So if you just list out the process steps, that in itself will teach you, it will become very apparent to even a novice that certain things are redundant and certain things may not be necessarily owned. We often find that we'll see that a technician says that they're responsible for sourcing parts, and somewhere later in the process, when the part's being purchased, the purchasing person thinks that they're responsible for sourcing parts. So you have redundancy in that. And then we'll find the opposite, where no one is responsible for sourcing parts. The technician believes that their job is only to provide a part number and they happen to be on the phone with the OEM, so they give them the OEM list price. And then the purchasing person says, well, I'm not going to purchase from anywhere other than where the tech tells me to buy from, because that's not my job. I just buy the part. So things like that will just get you miles ahead of the average health system that we go to right now from what we see. So that's just kind of the simplest level, is just chase the process. If you bring a stopwatch with you, that's even better. And then you can calculate exactly how much time you are spending, and then propose improvements, which will tell you what your time could be.
Thank you, John. I think we have one more question for you. What has been the feedback from your technicians since you've implemented this technology?
So like I had mentioned before a little bit, I had one guy, but most of my team, just about all of them, actually, they love the eParts Finder app. I mean, it's so, as a matter of fact, I was talking to one of my technicians yesterday, and he was like, it literally, he goes, it only took me a minute or two to order the part. He goes, it went right up there, I could see the picture. He goes, I ordered it and it was done. It was that simple. So, you know, they have really embraced it. I think my key to having that happen, though, was sharing all the information up front and building a culture of acceptance with my technicians. So, you know, not only having them come in and be part of everybody having a full-on training, but then sharing the reports with them and showing them the value. And as they see that, they were more likely to use the eParts Finder. And then when they started using it and calling PartsSource or whatever, they started realizing how easy it is. And then one technician talks to the other, and the next thing you know, they're all using it and really appreciate the benefit that it has brought to the department. So that was, that's basically how I did it.
Very good. And this, I think, is also a follow-up question to you, John. What CMMS are you using currently?
So we use Mainspring's Asset Enterprise.
And what purchasing platform are you using?
We use PeopleSoft.
Perfect. I think that will take care of the questions that we have for today. Like I said, any that we didn't get to, we'll send over to PartsSource for follow-up. We want to go ahead and thank Dan and John for being on the call today, and for today's sponsor, PartsSource. One lucky attendee will win lunch for their whole department. Details are included in the post-webinar survey, which will appear on your screen shortly. You must complete the survey to obtain your certificate of attendance. If you do not see the survey, email us at webinar@mdpublishing.com. Thanks again, everyone, and see you next time.